Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, we had a problem, and I'm going to invite all our guests in a few minutes. So our guests, if you're watching us, I'm going to send you the new link to join us. Okay, and we're going to play the opening video, and I'm hoping to see everyone on the screen when we come back. Hello, everyone. Hello. I know you didn't expect to see me here, but we had troubles. Somehow StreamYard was not connecting to LinkedIn, and we're here. So 7 minutes late, and slowly we're hoping to gather our guests back to here. And while they're gathering, our guests today are all rising stars, the new rising stars. And while we're waiting for them to gather, I think we can all watch the video that shows all the wonderful 100 top rising stars that we had with us this year. 3 of them are going to be with us today. So watch that video, and hopefully by the time it ends, we're going to have all of them here with us. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your lovely comments and for being here with us today. While I'm still waiting for Peggy to join us, I want to transfer first to our immigration report. So we'll start with Julia, and I want to welcome Julia to the screen. So everyone, please show your love to Julia, and let's welcome her to the screen.
Tally.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Yeah. So this show is going a bit strange, but I think we can start with your report. You had some Asia Pacific report.
Lovely, lovely. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to Becky Shear and Mark Buchanan from Fragaman from the Asia Pacific. But it's quite a momentous day for people who are living in Shanghai. So today is the very first day of the end of the lockdown. And it's been pretty tough in Shanghai. So they've had 75 days locked down. And that means people have been locked in their compounds. I did actually speak earlier this week to one person who said that in their compound, there was 160 houses with 300 people, and none of them had had COVID during the whole 75 days. They'd had 22 government COVID tests and 35 self-tests. So it's been a really pretty stringent lockdown. The government has been delivering free food, but it's been very difficult for people. So when I was speaking to people yesterday in Shanghai, they were explaining they were queuing up for this last COVID test. And the idea is that if you have the COVID test and it's, enough people were negative, they were going to break the lockdown. And I got a call at 11 o'clock last night from Becky in Shanghai saying that's what's happened. So people will now be able to go to the office, but you're going to have to do a PCR effectively every day. You have to have to go into an office or to go about outside the compound. You've got to have a PCR that's valid for was taken in the last 48 hours. So effectively every day. And at the moment, there are booths all around Shanghai at the end of streets. But from July, it's likely that companies will have to start paying for that. So generally, the big picture in China is that tourists can't come to China at the moment. You can come if it's work-related, but it takes a long time. So pre-COVID, 1 to 2 months now. At the moment, it's about 6 to 9 months. And you know that you have to get a travel ban letter, which is a people umbrella invitation, a PU invitation letter. And then you have to do a government quarantine. Now, a lot of companies have been asking about that because initially the quarantine facilities weren't brilliant, but now they're saying, well, it can be a government authorized facility. Oh, hi, Elisa. Yes, so happy for everyone in Shanghai. So you can actually, some companies have been actually taking serviced apartments or 4 or 5 star hotels to do the quarantine in. So generally, we are seeing assignees obviously being quite anxious. Hopefully now we're on a road to recovery and this will improve. But people who have jobs which are very easily portable, like English language teachers, they have been leaving Shanghai, and that's causing a difficulty with international schools. Oh, hi, Sylvia. It's lovely we're getting so many people join us. What we are finding is the long-term assignees are staying in Shanghai, and some are leaving their families there and going and doing sort of executive courses overseas. So just moving from China, Hong Kong, we've seen some improvements in the quarantine rules. But, because of the quarantine rules, the flights have been suspended into Hong Kong. Many airlines like BA aren't even flying to Hong Kong. And that's because their cabin crew was quarantined and they couldn't really run the aircraft there. And also because of this sort of threat hanging over things that, there was going to be a tougher lockdown. And that has been putting a lot of assignees off. But again, hopefully now, with this fantastically good news in Shanghai, the fact that Beijing never did go into such a serious lockdown, hopefully we're on the road out now, and things will get better and better. So just turning quickly to Vietnam, a lot of companies are in Vietnam. We've seen Vietnam be really a very, very popular place to move people to. But I just wanted to give everyone a reminder that the government announced the deadline for employers who sponsor foreign nationals, by which they must file their semi-annual reports. It's quite a draconian rule here. So you must file the report by the 7th of July. And if you don't, it could affect your applications. So just a shout out there. And finally, I just wanted to say something about Japan. That's really opening up now to tourists on guided tours. If you're coming from a country where there's a high propensity of COVID, you might have to quarantine. But, it's a very good sign, first sign after 2 years that Japan's opening up to tourism. Obviously, business travelers and assignees could already travel, provided they had visas and their companies applied for certificates of registration. But generally speaking, very good news, and we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. And I see that Peggy is already there. And so before we move into her, we may see some news from the industry, and she'll be here when we come back. So thank you, Julia, and everyone. Show your love, claps, hugs, and hearts. And we're going to see Peggy soon.
Thank you.
Well, hey, hopefully this really does work. Great. Thank you all for making the transition over to this link. And for those of you that ever doubted that we were taped, I know we aren't taped. That, it's just like when you do live Broadway theater, when the curtain goes up, the curtain goes up. So thank you all for hanging out. It sounds like you got the terrific update from Julia. I am, as a noted guest hosting for Brian. He's out on holiday. It might be the last time he ever invites me to do it, but I'm delighted and honored to be here. He's at a wedding, and our dear Julia, we didn't get the chance to thank her, but her daughter, Millie, also got married this past weekend. So congratulations, Julia, to you. And as always, thank you for such intense and in-depth updates on immigration and all things that are going on there. So in addition to the news, and there was quite a bit of news, that's pretty exciting, but we also have change makers. And some of you may have heard about our change maker initiative that we have at Benevo. But why don't we go ahead and let's tee up and let's just get a little bit of an understanding what's going on with our changes.
Unfortunately, a change maker didn't make it yet. So we might get her towards the end of the show. But how about we move directly to our wonderful rising stars? We're already sitting anxiously waiting at the
Let's do it, Callie. We got this, Brian. I hope you're enjoying that mojito on the beach, friend. Thank you.
Let's bring first Stephanie, and then Cheyenne, and Kayla. And,
all right.
And I'm going to leave you with these wonderful girls and have a wonderful chat.
All right. Well, you know what, ladies? Thank you so much for your patience making your way to the other studio. You know what? Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it when we can, sort of be improv. So this is awesome. So with that, I love to have a little bit of fun. And when Brian gets back from holiday, I thought I was going to have the upper hand by giving him some grief about rising stars. And I don't know what that means for seasoned veterans like myself and some of the names like my friend Eric Halverson out there and a number of them. I don't know if that means that we're falling stars. So we might have to do a little branding initiative with him.
Rebrand. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for supporting the rebrand. But so listen, we have so much to talk about today and would just really love to start with all of you. And maybe Stephanie, we'll just start at the top of the order. Why don't you introduce yourself to the team here, share a little bit about you and, you know, all things that you have going on at Walmart. And then we'll make our way to Cheyenne and then Kayla over to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Stephanie Coon. I currently work for Walmart. I manage international mobility, so everybody from around the globe coming into the U.S. to work for Walmart. I have a husband, and I just had a baby in October, so she'll be 7. She's 7.5 months. She'll be 8 months in a couple of weeks. So
she's really our rising star.
She really is.
Yeah.
She steals the show at every meeting. I always have to show off her picture, so she really is the one who takes the seat today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Cheyenne.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Bryant. I'm an international and domestic mobility specialist at BD. I've been there for about 2 years. And then on a personal note, I am based in Texas and just bought my first home. So that's my big personal update for everyone. Yeah.
Congratulations. That is exciting stuff. You're in San Antonio, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right. I love that. Well, we have to get pictures of the home. You're going to have to send them our way.
So absolutely. I'm happy to share.
Special. Congratulations.
I don't have a rising star, but I do have that.
That's a star.
Kayla, please tell us a little bit about yourselves and all things Twitter.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Coming in from Denver, Colorado. I am not originally from Denver. We are a city of transplants. I'm originally from Chicago. Went to school in Boston, started out in law and then, shifted to global mobility. And I've been at Twitter since January.
Okay. That is a unique track. We have a lot of people go mobility to law, but not the inverse. So I'm not really sure what was in that drinking water when you decided to make that switch. But you
true.
all are.
I couldn't stomach. I wasn't ready to go to law school for 3 years. The mountains were calling, and I needed to be snowboarding on the weekends.
There you go. Law school waits. Then you'll get there. You'll make the pivot back. I'm confident of that. But so rising stars, and you know what I love about that. But I like to think of this group and this class as ideators. People who have such great innovation, freshness to really truly a mature industry. So we could all learn. I could learn a lot from you all. What would you teach us if you could teach us something? Kayla, we'll start at the back of the batting order.
Sure. So technology sometimes, not to make fun of everyone else by any means, but it's really tough to integrate that into your workspace, right? There's always something new. So, constantly adapting and being ready to learn, using these new platforms, awesome platforms such as Benevo, to change how your work stream and your workflow day to day is managed.
All right. Fantastic. So you would teach us about technology. I probably could take a one-on-one lesson from you. I always say that there should be a model. We talk about fractional workforces. There should be a model where you could rent a teenager, because I would rent a teenager only to give me the lesson on technology and hopefully without rolling their eyes. But so Stephanie, how about you? What would you teach us?
Yeah, so I'm kind of the same as Kayla, right? To me, I'm all about process optimization, making things faster and easier. I would really love to start getting involved in the way we interface with the business and with the candidates, right? So being able to provide them updates on where they are in the move process, kind of from their phone or real time, is something that I would love to work on and be a part of.
Yeah. Maybe with both you and Kayla, you'll be the class of rising stars that starts, and maybe this exists, but I don't know that does, the mobility TikTok channel.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe we'll start with a mobility Twitter handle.
There you go. All right. Okay. Very good, Kayla. I like that little. There you go. That's perfect. Okay. Cheyenne, tell us a little bit about what would you teach us?
I think, Kayla and Stephanie have really good points. Where we optimize our processes and our technology, then we can focus on more of the creative solutions and providing that centralized customer experience, whether that person wants, just an app on their phone that they can go to, or that handhold approach. But, we can focus on implementing technology and process optimization so that we have the ability to offer, kind of those different aspects to really be customer focused and provide the business solutions that are needed.
I love that process optimization. So we take, when I was younger and would often talk to my colleagues and friends, we would talk about our frustration with leadership, like, oh, if they would just listen, I don't understand. They just won't listen to us. But if each of you could ask leadership, not necessarily in your company, but in your company, if you so choose that, to do one thing, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, Peggy, I think that's a great question. I'm lucky to work with an excellent manager, Rena Montalvo, who's constantly process improving and dynamic. I think something I would like to touch on the future is let's think about relocation and mobility in a more sustainable way. So, we've kind of touched on green mobility in some of our discussions here on the Benevo platform. How can we integrate that into our particular and specific company models?
Yeah, you know what? I think by the way, Rena is lovely. So congratulations, you're working for a wonderful manager as well. So, so let's shift over, same question over to Cheyenne.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of kind of reviewing all of our processes right now, what's working, what doesn't work, and where we can improve. And so my biggest message always is just listen to the people who are doing the work, take the ideas from everyone around us, because I know that I don't have the solutions, but I've got some ideas. And, a lot of it, comes from where can efficiencies be built in so that we have time to focus on the greater good and where we can be more impactful with our customers, which are, our relocation and assignees.
I like that. I like that. And then finally, Miss Stephanie, what would you say to leaders? What would you want them to be? What message do you want them to hear?
So I don't have anything to add. I think then they said it. They both said it perfectly. The only thing that I think is important here is just always thinking outside of the box, finding creative solutions and different ways to solve the same problem.
Yeah. That's why I think of this group of the younger people, whether they're younger in age or younger into our industry or whatever, as the ideators, they're able to see things that those of us, I'll speak for myself, have been in here for a number of years that we don't always see. So it is. So you know what? I hope you find your voice and you continue to do that. But I'm going to play a little, not Back to the Future, but Back to the Future-ish. So, okay, crystal ballish, you're 20 years out from now. We're going from you being the rising star to, where I am on this falling peninsula over here. But with that, tell me a little bit, like if you could speak to yourself in 20 years, what would you say to that person?
I think I would say something that I've been trying to say to myself since college, which is, the plan isn't always going to work out, and that's okay. So, we couldn't plan for the pandemic. We couldn't plan how mobility, immigration, relocation, how all of that would change with the pandemic. We had to adapt. We had to be on our toes. We had to come up with new solutions to these problems no one had seen before. So I think I would continue to say that to myself.
The plan isn't always going to work out, so be adaptable. Mm-hmm. All right, Stephanie, 20 years, what are you saying to yourself?
So just because your path looks different doesn't mean it's wrong.
Ooh.
I spent a lot of time when I was younger, because my path looked different, being really critical. And just because it looked different didn't make it wrong.
Ooh, I like that.
I still got to where I wanted to be, just looked different.
Yeah, that's, you know what? I hope, Tally, you're grabbing these, because these need to be in the Chiron. These are some great things that you're saying to your 20-year future self. So My friend there in Miss San Antonio, what would you say to yourself 20 years out?
I think I would probably say something along the lines of don't stop. There's more to be done. The job isn't over.
Yeah, you're just getting started. More to be done. All right. Wow. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing that bit of wisdom. Often we get asked, what advice will we give to our younger self? So I wanted to hear what you would say to your future self. I won't say your older self, but your future self. So thank you so much for sharing with that. So this is an absolutely crazy question, but I'm so curious about it because as rising stars in the attention economy, I'm curious, where do you consume your news? And I'm curious about that because I think as businesses and as companies, we need to meet people with where they are and the way that they consume information. So I know, Kayla, it's not a loaded question just to Twitterize it, but seriously, where Kayla, I'm going to come back to you. Where do you consume your news from?
Sure. Yeah. So of course, as you already said, Twitter is the space for what's going on in the world in real time. I do, though, enjoy my morning newsletters while I'm drinking coffee, have my morning brew or New York Times as I flip through what's going on in the world. But for the most part, yes, I do use Twitter.
You use Twitter. Fantastic. I will say this for those of you that are tennis fans, I am over, I'm in Europe right now. And so I couldn't get on the television, the quarterfinal. So I will give a plug to your company because I was feverishly going out to Twitter. Give me the Rafa score. Give me the Rafa score. I couldn't find it. And for those that love Rafa, he won in 4 sets. So this is kind of fun. But anyway, so yes, I do consume a little bit of that. But Cheyenne, how about you? Where do you get your news from? Like how do you grab that information?
So I'm online most of the time. I'll go to different news sites. And then, of course, I do have social media. And so usually when I find something that maybe I haven't heard about on social media, then I'll go directly to a news source. But most of mine is online.
Yeah, online as well. Fantastic. And Stephanie, how about you?
Social media.
Social media. Yeah.
Social
so
media.
It makes me wonder as we're moving these people around the border, around the world, crossing a border, are we speaking to them in the channels they want to be heard from? Or are we speaking to them in the channels that are comfortable with us? And I just welcome your thoughts. Where is there opportunity with that? Anybody?
Yeah, great question. I think, we love and hate Slack or Teams or those platforms at the same time, right? I think a lot of folks like to use that for sort of the instant answers rather than maybe setting up a call or using email. So I would say that internally, but also, to touch on again, the technology piece, the platforms that we're using for immigration and relocation management give our teammates, our colleagues that we're moving, a direct line to their counselors and their legal team. So I think having that quick communication channel has been key for them.
Yeah, coming to that. But Stephanie, what about from your perspective? Like, are we communicating properly to the people that we serve?
I think there is an opportunity, and I think chat, exactly like Kayla was saying, is something that we really need to start utilizing. Something that they can access on their phone, something they can access from a website, something that they can get to easily and quickly, especially when we're working with people who aren't internal to the company, right? So working with somebody who doesn't have access to Zoom or Slack that we're all on, giving them a way to get access to us because it is easier for them to get the quick answer via a chat window than send an email or set up a call if they're just asking a really quick, simple question.
Yeah. Cheyenne, same question, but I want to pivot it a little bit and ask you, where do you see voice assistants? Whichever device you use for voice assistance, where do you see that in the role with business?
I'm going to admit that I've never even thought about it as a possibility, but I'm intrigued to see its use in the future. And I think, we're in such a day and age where everyone wants full visibility to the process and quick answers. And so the more we utilize technology, which I think is what both Kayla and Stephanie are saying, the more we can utilize that, the better served our candidates feel. that voice assistant, it's another option. And so the more options we provide, the more creative solutions that we can provide, the better we serve our population, because our population is vast and their needs are going to be different. So the different options are going to be great as we continue to improve and come up with new ideas.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, so that's a great thing. It's the changing, not just the changing demands, but the changing environment of which the customers that we collectively serve, you know, how they want to be served. So I'm really curious to hear from you all a little bit around, you know, your perspective of, you know, how do we, I guess, what would you, if you had zero constraints, what would you do to improve the transferee or the assignee experience? You know, no constraints at all. Stephanie, what would you do?
I think for me, it's technology. So I would love to have access to creating a platform where hiring managers can get, you know, real-time updates on where their candidates are in the process, where the candidate can get a real-time upgrade or update, because they're working right with a reload supplier, an immigration supplier, a tax provider. Where's one place that they can go to get those updates and real-time updates as they're happening, instead of waiting on an update or an email or having to reach out for the information, just finding a place where they can go and access it all. So it gives them visibility to, one, the process, two, where they are in that process, and three, what the rest of the timeline might look like.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. I love what our friend Meredith has in here. You know, she's talking about teenagers, so they're budding stars themselves, and, you know, emails like writing a letter. And I bet that's true. You know, I mean, you have Snap, you know, the characterization limitation within Twitter. I mean, we've learned a whole new language, and guess what? It's not cursive, right? And you know, it's a little bit about how you do that. So, Cheyenne, how about you? Again, zero constraints. What would you do? You talked about process improvement earlier. So, what would you do to improve the experience?
I guess for me, and from my perspective in my role, it's eliminating some of the administrative burdens that we have, you know, kind of on the, you know, our side of the house, so that we can be more engaged with the candidate as needed and provide those out of the box solutions. I really want to drive into more creative outputs and creative, you know, solutions as things come up, versus, you know, being reactive, and maybe, you know, a little bit more proactive in the situations that arise, and eliminating some of those administrative burdens and, you know, building in efficiencies allow us to do that.
Yeah, 100%. What about Kayla from, again, zero constraints, world's your oyster? What would you do?
You know, magically, I would speed up USCIS processing time.
Magically.
No, I fully agree with Cheyenne and Stephanie here. I think you hit it on the nose, Cheyenne. Relieving ourselves of the administrative pieces that go into these moves would allow us to service our clients with just, you know, that higher of a level, or that better of a white glove service, so to say, because moving across the country or across, you know, the ocean is incredibly stressful and incredibly involved. And so being able to address those issues that those teammates are facing would make, you know, I think it would streamline the process a lot more.
Yeah. Well, staying, I think, a little bit within this theme, and, you know, all of our friends that are on our link here today, so curious around what's the future of mobility look like? It's an age-old question, but I never think it gets old. And so I'd love to hear from each of you. You know, Cheyenne, again, we'll start with you on this one, but what do you see as the future of global mobility, and what's going well and maybe what's missing?
Yeah, so I think, you know, as everything, we're always going to be progressing. I think with the future mobility, I will say, kind of coming out of the pandemic and more emphasis on remote work, I think that's going to change some of what we do. You know, as more people have the option to work remotely, there's going to be a bigger focus on compliance. But I think you know, what we found at BD is where the business was previously doing like business travel. With the pandemic, they couldn't get the visas, they couldn't get in, there were travel bans. And so we got to build greater credibility with the business, and they now come to us for specialized projects. And we're now more involved in some of those things and delivering that high white glove service, as Kayla coined it, to really drive the business resolutions and finding those creative solutions. And I think you can tell that's kind of where my passion is helping with some of those projects and being the creative focus to what the business views as an obstacle.
Yeah. No, I think that is. But Stephanie, how about from your lens, future of mobility? What's going well and what's missing?
So I think Cheyenne's right. So the pandemic kind of got mobility a seat at the table, right? Where prior we were fighting for credibility and kind of a seat in those discussions with HR and talent leadership about how we can provide guidance and help you with compliance. I think future state, we're going to get more involved in remote work and helping to set up those different scenarios, whatever that looks like. International remote work, domestic remote work, helping, between state to state compliance, things of that nature. I think it's kind of where we're headed, helping with more workforce flexibility than we're helping with today.
Yeah. I was going to say, before we head over to you, Kayla, to get your response, Ginger Merrick, she's in my class, so she's one of our seasoned stars. She's got a fantastic question in there. It's so curious, you can read that there, but when you're looking at your programs and your processes, and what about that changing demographic? Are you looking at changes to the benefit model that you deliver and the policy benefits you offer? Anybody out here looking to do that, or the service delivery with the changing demographics? Sounds like no. All right. That's okay.
Consistently review our policies. At BD, I will say, having worked with the team, there's a consistent review of what is working, what isn't, what vendors we're using, what benefits may need to be adjusted. Do we offer this one now? What's the cost, the benefit impact to that? So there is an ongoing review. And I think we'll continue that as things continue to, evolve in the future.
Yeah, I'm starting to hear conversations where, and it's not based upon a lens of anything with respect to prejudices or things along those lines, but where organizations are getting complete flexibility and or creating a model and a framework where it looks along the lines of where you are in your life stage. So what I need in my life stage from a set of benefits is different from a young mother or from a young and career individual. And so mobility benefits beginning to reflect that. Are any of your organizations taking a look at that with respect to life stage and thinking about mobility with a life stage benefit model?
Well, I think that speaks to the core flex conversations that have been had on Benevo and in the industry itself. There seems to be a greater preference for a menu of options that fit your life and your family or your needs, rather than, a firm set of guidelines that you need to follow. So.
Yeah, 100%. So curious with that. Well, all right. So let's change gears and talk a little bit about something that I'm hearing, and we were talking even before in the green room, which is the impact and how mobility is looking at environmental and social and governance things. So, Stephanie, you were talking about the elevation of certain things with respect to what's occurring in from the pandemic and what that did in the organization and how it elevated mobility more strategically. Are part of your programs now taking a look at anything environmental or on social constructs and, climate change? Are they coming more into what's being expected of each of you in your programs?
So I will say yes. There is, we're starting to look at it. I don't know, kind of how much progress we've made yet, but we are starting to look at what that means for our mobility program and what considerations need to be have.
Yeah.
And I would say that Twitter has a number of sustainability initiatives, and so it's a core part of our culture. And by effect, we're also going to look at that from a mobility perspective.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So we have another question that's popped up from an individual, and you can read it there again. was wondering a little bit, what are your ideas around balancing costs and the employee experience? And, we are in a time where experience is paramount because I think organizations have a fear of people leaving in a very difficult hiring environment. So how do you all think about that within your programs? Kayla, we'll start with you. How does Twitter think about balancing that cost with the experience you want to deliver?
Yeah, so I would say our philosophy at Twitter, first and foremost, is about employee development, right? And the needs of the business. And so, if those two align, then we're going to support our employees the best way that we can. So whether that includes, what we call branch out opportunities. Everything is a bird pun at Twitter. So branching out to other opportunities, we're fully supportive of that. Of course, we do align with policy, but we're able to work, in the best interest of the business and the employee.
Yeah. And what about, adding to that, taking a look then from each of you all, mobility, I've always thought could be in the forefront of helping an organization with its diversity initiatives. If you continue to recruit from the same pool, you tend to get homogenous looking and thinking individuals. Is mobility being factored more into, or is mobility being impacted by the executive DEI initiatives? Are you being asked to do more within your programs? And Cheyenne, we'll come to you. Curious what's going on with BD.
Yeah, I think it's a big initiative. At BD, we want to be inclusive and diverse. And I think just by the nature of our mobility program, we do help provide that because we're bringing talent across borders. And we are, making sure that, they are settling in. We provide services that we try and help, everybody. But I think that there's probably more to be done. And there's probably a lot that I don't know about behind our initiatives now. It's been a broad conversation, and, I think there's probably more being done in the background than I realize.
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask a couple of things. One of the things that we read about in the post-pandemic environment and the last little bit is around mental health. And many of your organizations are big brand organizations who make the news with how you're thinking about the mental health area. And I want to end our time, believe it or not, we're close, very, very close to the end of our time, talking a little bit about your own mental health and in your breaks. And we're gonna raise us up as we raise up our rising stars. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you intend to travel this summer for pleasure to get your mental health, in check. So Stephanie, let's start with you. Where are you traveling? Where are you going?
Well, we're moving, so we will be traveling to Charlotte to look for a house.
Okay, I'm not sure, Stephanie, that's a good mental health break. I'm talking vacation. But
what I got. It's what I got.
There you go. All right, it is what you got. Okay, fantastic. Cheyenne, how about you? Where are you taking your summer break for a mental health recharge?
Well, kind of like Stephanie, I am also in the process of moving. So that will be a good chunk of my PTO this summer, but I will also be going to Nevada. I have a trip planned with a college friend. So.
Well, that'll be fun. So that'll be a nice, pack your sunscreen. That'll be a nice but warm time over the summer for sure. And Kayla, how about you? Where are you intending to break away for your summer and getting your mental health?
Yes. One of the trips I have planned is to Atlanta. One of my very best friends is graduating with her PhD. And then I'll also be visiting two of my very best friends from when I studied abroad in Chile. So it's a nice reunion after about 3 years.
Being locked in. Wow. Well, we don't want you ladies to leave just yet because we have a message from another gentleman who was at one point a rising star. And then just this year, he was awarded the top position in Benevo's top 250. So we do have a video message from our dear friend, Vinny Valverde.
Congratulations to the Global Mobility Top 100 Rising Stars. My name is Vinny Valverde, and I'm the Director of Global Mobility at UPS. I don't know in what stage of your career you're in, or even if you realize what you want to do with your professional life. Well, one thing is certain. you already found the best industry. Looking forward to working with you so we can together drive the industry into the future with fresh ideas and new perspectives. A couple of things to keep in mind. Believe in yourself. Don't let others define your professional passions. Have your own purpose. Be a lifelong learner. And best of all, work hard, play harder. Congratulations again. Take care.
All right. Thank you. And thanks
Wow.
everybody.
Ladies, you've done amazing. Seriously, this show took you through the hoops, and all of us. First, Brian leaving us alone, and then LinkedIn ditching us. But I think we did really well, and we had so many people joining us to see you. And actually, thank you, Vinny, for your congratulations. And I'm sure many people would like to congratulate you on your Rising Star achievement. And so I want to once again share my screen and show our people in the audience how they can also congratulate you. And I want to invite everyone to look at my screen. And this is our website for the Global Mobility Rising Stars. And so here you can find all the rising stars. Here's Kayla and Cheyenne. Let's go into Cheyenne. So if we go here, we can click on her and we can congratulate Cheyenne and send her a message that this will go directly to her mailbox. And I'm sure she'll be very happy to get that. And while you're at that, I'm also inviting you to see our partners' microsites. So here you can see, for example, Fragoman. Julia has been with us, and I'm so thankful for her too. And so this is Fragoman's microsite, and they sent us a really interesting article. So you have here the articles, and I really invite everyone to go into these microsites and check them out. They're really interesting. So before we wrap up, I first wanted to invite all our audience to our show next week, 8th of June, which is going to talk about the future of the Big Four. So I'm sure all of you heard about EY and the planned split. So yeah, Brian is going to talk all about that. And just before we wrap up, Peggy, you promised something before, and
yeah, you know what? Yeah, one of the things I love is flipping everything up on its head, and so we're doing the back and the front and the front and the back.
Definitely did that today,
one way or another. But with that, earlier in the show, we were hoping to be able to do this. But in addition to the Rising Stars, we have change makers. So I do want to welcome to our studio a very great change maker, Kristen Dardani, and so we're going to spend a few minutes talking to her, and then we'll wrap for the day. So Kristen, I know that we lost you when the studio crashed, and I'm so glad we found you and we didn't have to put out an APB. So thank you for sticking with us and finding your way back to us. And congratulations on all your hard work. And I know you have a huge role at Brain Labs, and I do want to, at a future point, chat with you far more in depth around that, the recent transition. But you're here today as a result of becoming a change maker. And I'd really love for you to share with our guests that are still with us, a little bit about why did you decide to become a change maker?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think technology is obviously at the forefront of mobility transformation that is happening, needs to continue to happen. And HR transformation at large. So it's great to have a seat at the table to influence technology that's being built to support our industry and our employees. But equally, I mean, I think just the forum that the Changemaker network provides us all to collaborate and to really influence best practice. I mean, I know we all know, the employees who come to us and say, well, this company is doing this, and why aren't you doing that? And certainly at the beginning of the pandemic, there were a lot of companies that came out and talked about their new mobility practices, their new remote work practices, and a lot of the proclamations in the early COVID days seemed to be a vote of confidence in employees' resiliency and also in the technology that supports remote work, but certainly didn't address all of those compliance issues that are near and dear to our hearts. So it's great to be in the Changemaker Forum, for that reason, to talk about it as, big companies, small companies, leaders in those companies, to ensure, that we're doing right by our people in terms of managing their risks and ours.
It's a really interesting time. And I think when you talk about change makers and rising stars and the youth and the change and the uncertainty that surrounds us, I'm so curious, then why did you choose, and where's your heartstrings with respect to UNICEF?
Well, I mean, UNICEF has been around since the end of World War II. I mean, they're present in 190 countries globally, and they're focused on the survival, protection, and development of children, which encompasses a lot of stuff. But when you think about it with Ukraine as probably the most recent example, they're taking the money, the funds that they raise. And I should point out, they only spend 4% of their revenue on administrative costs. So they're really, really well rated as a charity. The other 96% goes to those initiatives I mentioned. And in Ukraine in particular, they're using their funds to get medical supplies, education materials, provide psychosocial, emotional services. And they've also set up these blue dot centers along transit routes to help the 2/3 of children in Ukraine who've left that country to be in a bordering country for now. There are additional children in Ukraine who are displaced within the country. So we're talking about, millions of people, and UNICEF has been really key to supporting those kids these last few months and for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hard to believe. We are really, truly at the end of our time, given the front end and everything. But, I think, Kristen, I want to thank you for your work, for being an inspirational individual, choosing the change maker journey, sharing and making a difference, and the UNICEF story. There are so many opportunities for people to give back and to be a part of that. So, thank you. Thank you for so much for being with us today. What I'd like to do now is invite back all of our guests, because whether or not we like it, we're all going to take a quick curtain call. And while we're doing that, a couple of things. Don't forget, you can get your continuing educational credits through HRCI, through SHRM, or through Worldwide ERC. So be sure to do that. Tally gave you the information for the upcoming show next week with Brian, the Big Four. That is big news. You don't want to miss out on that opportunity. Brian, I do hope you do invite me back at a future time to guest host once again. And
Peggy, I'm sure he will. You did amazing. You did amazing. And
I'm excited. I stand on the shoulders of giants with all these ladies. But as always, thank you all so much for what you do every day, going out, making a difference in a very difficult time in the world around us. But and to our friends that stayed with us, moved on the different links that we had, thank you all so much for just inspiring me and the group every single day. So appreciate everything that you do all the time. And Tally, over to you, my friend.
Peggy, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for today's show. You've been amazing. We have a really nice comment here from Andrew, who says, some of us that have been finished for decades, based on the energy and intelligence clearly demonstrated in today's session, tell us that the mobility industry is in good hands for the future. Yeah. So well done, ladies. And
congratulations. Safe moving, everybody. Be well, be out there in the world. And you know what? Be kind. Thank you all,
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.